Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me today on Super Pants Gaming. And today I've got a little kind of bolt-on episode to the end of Mission 360, which I'm probably going to call something stupid like the post-mortem or something equally ridiculous like that. But yes, you probably already know that. But anyway, I've got a couple of pickups coming in a minute. But I just kind of wanted to touch on sort of how I collect and ask you guys, how do you guys collect and stuff? Because basically, Mission 360 to me, as I mentioned at the end of the last video, it's basically sort of been a sort of journey of the last sort of 3 or 4 years or so, where I started with a list of 150 games, which was actually a cut down list from a list that I think was nearer sort of 250. But when I sat down with a sensible adult, I said, I think that's more than I actually want sort of thing. So I chopped a load off sort of thing. And some of those games are games that I have picked up in the meantime anyway. And others are I sort of said I might pick them up if I see them sort of thing, but I'm not sort of totally desperate. It was the sort of 150 on the sort of main list that became Mission 360, and what you guys caught was basically the sort of the tail end of that, which was just sort of the last sort of 6 months of it. I think it was about 40-50 games or something when I actually got my backside into gear and actually turned up on YouTube, which was something I was meant to do from sort of back when I was collecting Master System and PS2, as you know, so I'm just waffling now. But yes, so what I was going to touch on today is the fact that with Mission 360 and the Xbox 360 and stuff, there are still games out there that I may pick up from time to time if I sort of find them cheap. But finishing Mission 360 for me it was never really about sort of saying that's it, I'm completely sort of done with the Xbox 360. There's still bits I'll pick up, you know. But what it sort of means is I'm not actively collecting for it. So old habits die hard and all that sort of nonsense. But, you know, nowadays, the last sort of few weeks anyway, since I've I've been back in CEXs and stuff, I've actually completely stopped looking at the Xbox 360 section. I'll cast a little eye just to check there's no steelbooks or anything like that. But, you know, I'm not sort of actively sort of like, oh, what have they got sort of thing. I'm sort of straight to the PS4, straight to the OG Xbox up there. Like, yeah, because that's what I'm sort of actively sort of collecting for now. That's sort of where my buzz is on collecting sort of thing. That's where I get my little dopamine hits when I pick a game up. So, oh, sorry, just sliding off there. Yes. But yes, basically, what I was sort of trying to say with the Xbox 360 is I kind of like my collections to sort of be a little bit fluid. They're never sort of done and dusted sort of thing. I would say 90% of the games that enter this house stay in this house, and the other 10% sort of come in, I'll play them, and then they'll get moved on. I'll either give them to charity, I'll give them to people, if anyone ever accepts them, or I'll trade them in CEX or somewhere else, you know. But 90% of the games that I actually buy, I buy with the full intention of keeping. So, well, I kind of intend to keep all of them, but 90% of them actually get kept sort of thing. So, what I will say is I am still going to pick the odd game up when I find sort of Xbox 360 games sort of cheap in the wild sort of thing, like if I'm in a charity shop or somewhere else that's selling them really cheap. And an example of that, I've got a couple of pickups here for you. Now, these were from Retro Vintia. You may have seen I did like a couple of little Retro Vintia pickups in PlayStation Pickups and Collectbox a little while ago. They've got like the little Retro Vintia thing in the thumbnail, so if you want to go back and check that, so I'm not going to bother putting any footage in here, but there was a load of Xbox 360 games there, and all the games were like £2, as long as you bought like at least 5 sort of thing. So the first game that I picked up is Wet on 360. Now, this is a game that would have been on the list prior to it being cut down sort of thing. I've had it in the past and I've completed it. So I wasn't totally sure, and that's the reason that it didn't actually form part of Mission 360. And when I had this in the past, I actually got rid of it when I got my copy on the PlayStation 3 over there. So yeah, you guys can't see where everything is, but yeah, at some point I will show you properly, but yeah. And then you'll probably be like, why doesn't he sit over there in front of the games? But yeah, anyway, yeah, that is actually quite a good point, but it's just the way the room is. But yeah, so yeah, the first game is Wet. And yeah, kind of pleased to get that back in the collection. It wasn't part of Mission 360s. Like I said, I have completed it on 360. Not 100%ed it, but, you know, completed the main story. And I do own it on the PS3. So, but for £2, figured why not? May as well. And then the other pickup was, I don't know if you guys will remember, or if you've even seen it sort of thing, but in Collectbox a little while ago, I purchased a copy of Tomb Raider Legend on the original Xbox, which is... Oh. which is there. And when I got this, I sort of said, like, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to sort of compare it to the other versions. So I saw this again in, not that one. Sorry, they look pretty much the same on the back. Yes, so I saw that in Retro Vintia. It's £2 again, and it's complete in nice condition. So I figured for the sake of £2, I know it's probably not much more than that in CEX, but you know, gives me an extra copy of it, and then I can maybe do the comparison thing if I decide. I don't know. I may do that in the future, I might not. So I don't know if that's sort of anything that any of you guys would be interested in at all. But yeah, I guess if it's not, you can just ignore it if I do it, and if I don't do it, then yeah, no one loses, no one wins. Hey, you know what I mean. I'm probably just waffling. But yes, another something else while I'm talking about the Mission 360 in the collection and stuff. There's been a few games that have actually left the collection. And you might remember that I sort of did the Cool video like back a couple of months ago. Most of those games have actually gone now. Most of them went to CEX. I gave a few to charity. I think there's still some... Yeah, I think there's still some in my office, like in a box in the corner, like with a load of old PS2 stuff that no one wants as well. So yeah, I don't know. They'll just sort of sit there until, I don't know, hell freezes over, I guess. But no, I imagine they'll probably end up at a charity shop at some point. But a while ago, I think it was either episode 4 or episode 5, I think, of Mission 360. I picked up a game called Monster Madness, and at the time it was a little bit tricky to get hold of because of all the FOMO with the 360 and stuff, and I was so pleased to get it and like sort of get it for a decent price because I had a funny feeling it was going to sort of start going up, and it did go up after I got it, and I remember being so pleased to have got it because it's one that I really, really sort of like the look of, and I played it at the time and I was a little bit underwhelmed with it, so I played it again probably just over a month ago. And again, I just didn't really enjoy it. And I'm not saying it's a bad game. I think it's the sort of game, if you played it back in the day and you sort of like enjoyed it, if you played it with your mates sort of things, it felt like it sort of needed to sort of be played like as a group sort of thing in a way, then I think you'd absolutely love it. However, I didn't have the nostalgia for it. So going in sort of playing it, because I normally play sort of single player, sometimes Sensible Adult comes on for a bit of sort of co-op if there's couch co-op on games and stuff. But it just didn't hit. And I sort of thought to myself, there are so many other games that I'd rather play. I'll be honest, I'd rather play sort of zombies on COD. But, you know, and I thought, well, that's one of the ones I'm going to go, that's going to go. Because there's no sense in me keeping it. If I'm never going to play it, I'm just going to look at it on the shelf and think, not really that keen on that. So at that stage, that's basically when I get rid of the games. So that's one of the sort of 10% that didn't stay sort of thing. I reached out to a couple of people actually to sort of see, because there were a few others as well, I can't remember. Yeah, there were 2 or 3 basically that were sort of a little bit more uncommon. So I reached out to a couple of other like YouTubers, a couple of people on Facebook sort of thing. A couple of people just didn't get back to me. I had one guy get back to me and said, "Oh, thanks so much, but I've already got it." I was like, "Cool, many thanks, excellent. Cheers." And then another guy that I don't think got my message until like sort of 2 weeks after I'd sent it sort of thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, never mind. So I didn't actually get to offer it to him, but at least he, replied in the end sort of thing. So, because I'd already taken him to CEX by then. I sort of gave it a week. I thought so I was waiting for 3 people to reply. I was like, yeah. But yeah, so failed to give it away, so I ended up, it went in CEX. I think I got £16 for it as well, which was actually pretty good. So that funded Conquer and Project Gotham Racing 2 out of Collectbox. So if any of you guys are watching that. So that'll be where the £16 for those came from. But yes, anyway. So yes, with that said, that's just me sort of having a little bit of a waffle about my collection, about my Xbox 360 stuff and that. And will there be any more casualties to it in the future? Yeah, I'll be honest, I think the next one that will be leaving maybe... just looking, might be Spider-Man. I'm not sure. Yeah, so that was all right, but I don't know. I'll probably trade that in as opposed to trying to give it away this time though, because I mean that is worth a few quid. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? How do you guys collect? That's kind of what I was sort of asking here. I was sort of wondering, do you guys sort of do similar to me? Do you sort of keep 90% of your games sort of thing? Do you move any on? Or, there we go, it's a sensible adult's phone. Do you move any on, or do you sort of keep everything? So I know I'm a bad collector. That's been pointed out to me in the past. I've got no issue with that at all, because, you know, I am a gamer before being a collector. And when I collect, I really I like to go out. I like to sort of get the stuff, and there's no sense in me keeping it in my collection if it's stuff that I don't want in my collection. And, you know, my collection is always going to be curated, like I said. Yeah, so that is literally me drawing the line under Mission 360. So anyone that's only watching this series, thank you so much for being here. Have a great life. And yeah, stay awesome and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully some of you guys will stay and have a little look at CollectBox, and you want to see the absolute bangers I've picked up on the PlayStation next week. I'm hoping. So if you don't, all the best. Take care of yourselves, and hopefully we'll cross paths in the future, people. Peace out. Nonsense. Nonsense. Nonsense out. Nonsense out. Waffle gone. Nonsense out. Waffle off. Waffle off. Wobble off.